we go.
Sorry, Luke, I'm a little late. I was on a call.
No problem. Thank you very much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
You got it. Thanks for
How
covering
are
all
you
this
doing? How are you
fun
holding up?
stuff. I'm good. Just waiting to know the outcome of everything.
I know everybody is. We're all on pins and needles out here. It's wild stuff.
Try being
I
in
gotta
this
ask.
position.
Welcome to Elected. I'm your host, Luke Radel, and yesterday I spoke to Congressman Anthony Brindisi, who represents New York's 22nd Congressional District. His rematch with former Congresswoman Claudia Tenney is the only House race in the country that is still too close to call, 6 weeks after the election. With the ongoing legal battle and the recanvassing process moving forward in all 8 counties, there were a lot of important things to discuss with Congressman Anthony Brindisi.
I gotta ask because last night I watched Die Hard for the first time, and it's
For the first time.
for the first time.
I know,
First
I
time
forget
I'd ever
how-
seen it. And I have
I
to
know.
ask you because this is a very controversial issue, and you're one of 535 people in the legislative branch of our government. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Of course it's a Christmas movie.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you. Okay. You know what? We got the most important question out of the way. We can, that's the interview. We're done. No, I want to talk about the ongoing court proceedings.
Last week, Oswego County Supreme Court Justice Scott Del Conte issued his decision in the case filed by Claudia Tenney against Anthony Brindisi and the county boards of elections in the district. Ms. Tenney is presently leading the incumbent congressman in the unofficial vote tallies given to the court by just 12 votes. But in his ruling last week, Del Conte denied a motion from Tenney's legal team to have that count certified, declaring her the winner, and instead chose to partially grant the Brindisi campaign's legal motion for the recanvassing of disputed absentee ballots and the canvassing of previously uncounted affidavit ballots. In our interview, Congressman Brindisi seemed pleased with this result.
Well, we thought it was a good ruling. Like I said in the statement, I thought it was a real win for the voters in the district, for our democracy. We've been saying right along that we want the voices of the people in the district to be heard, and this ruling will enable the boards of elections to go back and correct any errors and make sure that the people are heard in the district. So I was pretty happy with the ruling.
But Justice Del Conte's decision was not all positive for the Brindisi campaign. At times, the judge criticized Brindisi's legal team for, quote, picking and choosing where they wanted ballots to be recanvassed, with a particular focus on areas with potential Democratic votes, like Oneida County, as opposed to a broader effort to correct all tabulation errors that the court finally settled upon. Brindisi's attorneys asserted that the targeted approach was for the sake of time, arguing that the district should have a representative sat by January 3rd, when the new Congress is sworn in. For the judge, however, even that argument was unavailing. I asked Congressman Brindisi about Justice Del Conte's particularly critical remarks in his decision.
In his ruling, Justice Del Conte denied part of the motion on your legal team, saying that Brindisi asked this court to place expediency above the board's compliance with their statutory duties. Is Justice Del Conte wrong about what you guys were asking for? What were you asking for in your motion?
Well, essentially what we were asking for was basically what the judge ordered. We were asking him to go back and to correct these errors. We had given him some examples of areas that we felt were most problematic, like Oneida County and some of the other areas where there were a lot of problems. But I think overall, I'm very pleased with the decision, and I'm very pleased that he soundly rejected the Tenney campaign motion, which was basically asking for him to stop the counting while we still have ballots out there. That would have been, I think, a big mistake to just say, let's stop counting and certify her the winner because she's 12 votes up when she was 13 votes down. She, of course, wanted to continue counting. So I think this ruling gives both parties the opportunity to go back and to let the voices of the people be heard.
Yeah, I want to jump in on that 13 votes down thing, because on November 25th, when you took an unofficial lead by that 13 vote number, You tweeted, quote, "In January, I will be sworn in and continue to work on behalf of New York's 22nd district." Even though there were about, a couple thousand uncounted ballots out there.
Well, I'll let you in on a little secret, Luke. That was an error. The statement should have said, "I'm hopeful." Okay, sometimes when you're putting statements out there on Twitter, you don't always get it right. The statement should have said, "I'm hopeful in January we'll be sworn in." So that was a mistake. I'll take full responsibility for that.
A report in the New York Post about observers being sent from Washington to observe this court-ordered canvassing led many, including Ms. Tenney, to speculate about whether the Brindisi campaign would seek to file an election challenge with the House Administrative Committee in the event of Tenney being certified as the winner, an action that, if granted, would allow incumbent Congressman Brindisi to keep his seat. Ms. Tenney made these comments on Fox News over the weekend.
But now the House administration is looking to overturn this. Scary thing could happen. It could look like 1985 all over again, where the House Democrats actually went in and seated a Democrat over the winner, the certified winner, who was a Republican. So we're hoping that doesn't happen this time and that will prevail if all the legal votes are counted.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi herself even hinted at the House getting involved in the race for NY-22 in comments on December 4th.
We'll see what happens in the court, and that may end up in the Congress. I don't know. But the court will decide which votes will be counted. But that's like down to 12 votes.
I asked Congressman Brindisi if he was considering or would consider filing an election challenge with the House Administrative Committee.
Is that something that you are considering or would consider if the margin is very close and you want to have somebody seated?
Well, I'm not going to speculate on what might happen next. I think the margin is too close and the stakes are too high for anyone to speculate on that. What I've said all along is let the voices be heard, and that process is playing out right now. But I'm not going to speculate on what could happen in the future.
Congressman Brindisi also expressed concern about the statements that have been made by his opponent, both before and after the election.
I, like many in the community, just shake my head. I don't understand why she does it. Sometimes I think she truly believes some of the things that she says, but they're proven absolutely inaccurate and false. And I think it's dangerous to have that kind of rhetoric out there and to traffic in these kinds of conspiracy theories, because you're misleading the public. Even with the latest stuff that's going on in the campaign, trying to, I've watched a lot of the interviews that she's given the last couple of weeks, and she brings it right to the edge where she won't really come out and say fraud, but she'll do everything she can to try and implicate there's something fishy going on in the election.
We have dozens of reports from people who say they received ballots that they did not ask for, who ultimately went in and voted in person.
There is no voter ID in New York.
The boards are overwhelmed.
There are a number of people who are deceased that actually voted in this election.
They're understaffed. They don't have the resources promised by Cuomo. And that's why you're seeing these crazy irregularities and they're in real trouble with the boards here in New York.
Even trying to insinuate that somehow dead people voted in the election, which she knows is false. It's false too, Luke, as you've been following it. The Syracuse Post-Standard looked at that issue and said it's completely not accurate. And actually, it's an example of the system actually working, because you had 3 people who voted by absentee who subsequently passed away before the election. And in New York, you must be alive on election day for your vote to be for your ballot to be actually cast. And Madison County found those 3 people had passed away and did not count their ballots. So that's actually an example of the system working. But that hasn't stopped her and some of her allies in Congress from trying to fundraise off of, quote unquote fraud when there's just none to be had. And that's what the judge clearly laid out in his opinion as well. But it's sad because, I believe in the truth. I think as an elected official, we should be held to a higher standard. And that's something that I disagree with sometimes with my opponent on issues. And I think we should do our best to stay away from conspiracy theories, because it undermines the whole process, our electoral process and our democracy. And we don't need that right now in our country.
So what makes the job worthwhile for the congressman? Why would he want a second term at all?
Well, I guess I would go back to what I talked about earlier. I think a lot of young people get turned off by politics because they see 2 sides constantly fighting, and they see, folks sometimes spreading all kinds of misinformation out there, and they may say to themselves, why would I ever want to go into a career like that where you're constantly under attack and you have people who are outright lying about you and things like that. But I'll say that we're in a really tough time in our country right now. I think you know that, Luke, just from watching things and how this election's turned out and how divided we are. And it's a time more than ever where we really need good people to go into public service and to really get back to what it's all about, and that's helping people. The most important part of the job for me is helping people. And when you can actually solve an issue, that means a lot. We had a woman who had reached out to our office last year who was going through cancer treatments. She couldn't afford the cancer treatments. She didn't have insurance, and we helped her get onto Medicare and Medicaid, and she was able to get insurance and be able to get her cancer treatment covered. To me, that we maybe helped save a life there, and that's really important work. And I think the more young people can be exposed to that side of the job, as opposed to what they may see on CNN or Fox or MSNBC or on Twitter, the more likely they will go into a career in public service and feel that it's something rewarding that can reward them and give back. So I try to get that out there as much as I can, the good side of being a public servant, as opposed to what you might see on TV every day.
And speaking of Twitter,
Rep. Brindisi followed you back. I just saw it on there.
I say, here we are, elected news. I'm following.
Thank you very much.
I took care of it.
Perfect.
for more on the race for NY-22, subscribe to Elected News right here on YouTube and follow us on Twitter @Luke Radel.